Peace, chiefs, and deers. It's Bronzebird here with another video. Before I begin, like and subscribe. Well, usually it always comes into a man's life where we naturally have insecurities and, certain things are very obvious, certain things we don't talk about, many things we don't talk about as men. Really, certain things that's not even in our control is used as a way to belittle us and literally reprimand us for something we couldn't control, like I said before. I want to talk today about men being insecure about their height. I know there's always been this type of session where men get a rise and get a kick off for dissing on the short man and dissing on the men who may exhibit the quote-unquote Napoleon complex. Now, the standard height of men in America is 5'9". And also I've seen something with the new robot that's supposed to be coming out from Elon Musk, who has the robot standing at the average height of 5'8". And the reason I want to make this video is that they're starting to come out with this whole entire thing in the cosmetic field, and a lot of these doctors are doing research on how to get men to be taller from the height that they are, and all these different things out here. And in my honest opinion, I do believe that a lot of the cosmetic field and getting into the whole entire practice of being a doctor and finding out all these different ways of research when it comes to the human body had to do with something on playing the insecurities. That's the reason why they did a lot of these cosmetic surgeries for women, because women is always insecure. They're always looking for a reason to change their body when they don't feel like they have the perfect shape. They always feel like their face isn't pretty enough, so then they get all these like Botox surgery and all this other stuff. You got a lot of these broads out here getting BBL surgeries to have a fat butt when they don't have a butt in general before that. And it's always something with women. But now, what I see a lot of these doctors doing, regardless if they're researching or not, and I'm not saying that I believe that it's wrong, and I'm not saying that I believe it's right, they're finding ways on trying to play on the insecurities of men. That's just my belief, that there are men out here who are asking for the same exact thing, like getting Botox surgery in their face and also getting fake six packs. But today's video is going to be about men who want to achieve a way of gaining some type of height. Let's just say if you're roughly about 5'4", 5'4.5" to 5'6", you can achieve at least 2 inches to 3 inches, that is, by this surgery they're coming out with, by lengthening your leg with this whole entire instrument that's supposed to chop down the bone of your leg, and you put some instrument in there that's supposed to strengthen it or lengthen it out, or do things like that to make your legs get a little bit longer. Now, it'd be really weird for me to see men out here who have more longer legs than they have longer torso and longer arms and all this other stuff. But I mean, look, my thing about it is, at the end of the day, as men, if this is an insecurity, I can understand the insecurities, because everyone has insecurities at the end of the day. But I definitely do want to make this video to make sure men understand in general. There's always more routes to take with becoming more secure with yourself, especially when it comes to the insecurity about height. Later on in this video, I'll tell you certain ways you can take in order to achieve a little bit of more height. You may not get 6 feet tall, that is, but you'll definitely have a little bit of height, because I already seen a couple of videos on this subject. So I just want to talk about this and share the video with you. So peep, fair use.
Would you be willing to break your legs if it meant you could be taller? For some, the answer is yes. Check it out. Being short is a common frustration for many, but for a long time, there weren't many realistic solutions. Limb lengthening procedures have been around for years, but were extremely invasive and mainly reserved for those with disabilities or even uneven limbs. But now, doctors are offering elective lengthening procedures so that patients add a few inches to their height. Are these procedures the future of cosmetic surgery, or are they too good to be true? Here with us today is orthopedic surgeon and founder of the LimbplastX Institute, Dr. Kevin Devitt-Parshad, along with his patient, David. Thank you both for being here.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
As a patient who's had this procedure, what motivated you to do it?
It's definitely a confidence booster for me. I mean, I definitely wanted to get taller. I started off around a little over 5'7". I was able to get to 5'9", which is the industry standard for males in the US.
And before he continues, I don't know, maybe it's just me. I don't even think 5'7" is that bad for a male. I mean, I usually think that the taller, like you're considered tall at 5'7" and 5'9". I mean, obviously if you're 6 feet and above, yes, you're tall. But I mean, if you're talking the 5 foot range, I don't usually think that 5'7" is a bad height for a man. 5'5" to about 5'7", you usually be the mid, and then 5'4" and then lower is usually short. But the thing about it is, for men, there's usually a different characteristics for men than it is for women. A woman that's at 5'4" or 5'4" would be considered mid-height. 5'6" or 5'7" would be considered tall for a woman. And then after that, obviously, you're just a tall freak, or you're just as tall as a sequoia tree. You understand? But you know, it's just really crazy how this is gonna go on. But check it out.
So almost 2 inches.
And having gone through it, no regrets.
I don't have any regrets. I probably regretted it a gazillion times going through it. It's definitely, you know, it is a painful procedure.
Can you walk us through what that process is like and the pain and rehabilitation? Because again, part of it is cost, part of it is safety, and then part of it's the recovery.
Yeah, so I mean, within the second day, I'm out of the hospital bed and I'm doing laps around the hospital with my walker. On the third day, I'm released. I start physical therapy. And within about 2 or 3 weeks, I'm off the walker and I'm walking. After about 2 months of doing that, then you go into a phase of healing. So it takes a long time for the bone to actually harden. So you do a lot of visits back to the office, do a lot of x-rays, checking that out. And then once it's solidified in the legs, you go back in for a procedure where he'll remove it. That's an outpatient procedure. It's hardly any pain at all. Within a couple of weeks, I was back to normal.
Can you explain exactly how this procedure works?
And I just want to add this really in quickly because I understand the whole entire rhetoric with being a quote unquote short man. Okay, I get it. I understand why women in particular, even though women is not really a factor in this conversation, just for certain men who may feel insecure that they cannot get the woman of their choice because of how short they are. And about how women always brag about how they need tall men who's 6 feet and all this other stuff. Let me explain something to you. I mean, again, I get it. I understand. They want men that's usually taller than them because of protection. I get it. But then the standard of the short man, even when it comes to the entertainment business, he's being used not to be taken seriously. Such as a lot of characters I can name right now that really reminds me of this off the top of my head is someone like Danny DeVito, with a lot of characters he plays in films in which he's supposed to be this short, stubby, fat man who's like very clumsy and is supposed to be funny in a lot of these films, yes. That you have someone like Joe Pesci that filmed in a couple of movies in the 80s and 90s of being the comic relief for a lot of these films. Kevin Hart in particular. The only time, and back to Joe Pesci, he was only taken lightly serious as a villain in a couple of movies that had to deal with the Italian mob. And then the famously known one that we know of, if you watch It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, the character Charlie Kelly, who's supposed to be revered as a man-child, supposed to be revered as a man who exhibits the Napoleon complex. So, I mean, even in the entertainment industry, they revere the short guy as a comic relief, as a loser, as one of those guys that's supposed to be not taken seriously. And I understand the rhetoric that becomes behind that. But later in this video, I'll give you my point of view and expand a little bit further on my thought process of this surgery and such things you should possibly take to gain some type of height from this whole entire frustration of being short.
Sure. So from a simplistic standpoint, essentially we're just going in either to the thigh bone, which is the femur, or the lower leg bone, the tibia, and we're essentially separating that bone by cutting it placing this implant in position that responds to a remote control that slowly lengthens the tissue. And then patients can, become 3 to 6 inches taller, just depending on, if they get 1 or 2 procedures. Pretty.
So my thing about it is they're putting a whole entire cutting down a bone first, then putting an instrument in order to lengthen the bone in there to let the leg get a little bit more height, that is for the man to grow a little bit taller from 3 to 6 inches, or in this man's case, 2 inches. Later on, they're going to reveal to you the price about how much it costs to do such a procedure. My thing is they don't teach you about the basics. Number one, the FDA doesn't tell you how much chemicals they put in your food, which can also loosen the man's height and not allow him to grow to his full potential. They don't tell you about the whole entire thing of HGH. Let me repeat that for you. HGH, which is a height or growth hormone that exhibits in men. And especially they don't also tell you this, that it's been regulated within the field of the practice that men usually stop growing in their early 20s. I think there's a lot of people who already know that, but just those who don't know, you usually don't really grow. You stop pretty much growing in your early to mid 20s, usually your early 20s. But, for men out there that's watching and young men that's watching out there, I can actually help you if you are in your teenage years, in which you being short is a factor and why you don't feel confident about yourself, if that is the case. But I always will say this first. You must feel confident in yourself before anything. Screw the women that's out there dissing on you being short, and screw the tall guys out there that's dissing you for being short. Confidence is the number one thing that a man has to understand about himself, regardless of what age you are, how you look, how you carry yourself. You have to have confidence in yourself. Yes?
Minimally invasive. It's guided by X-ray, so we do the entire surgery via X-ray. So it's 4 to 6 very small incisions that we either place around the thigh or the lower leg. What we end up doing, and I'll just use this model here, we try to make a little window into the bone itself, so we gain access to the tunnel of the bone. Then what we do is we actually place the device actually into the actual tunnel. Okay. Prior to that, we are separating the bone through a small incision. We then lock it or transfix it with the screws at the top and the bottom of the actual implant. Then that nail actually responds to an external remote control that the patients get, and they can lengthen approximately 1 millimeter a day. So it takes about 25 days or so to get an inch. Generally, patients are up walking the same day of surgery with the therapist, or they'll start walking the next day. It takes a couple of weeks to return back to your general activities, and probably a couple of months before you sort of realize your final length.
And then if someone successfully goes through this, are their bones strong? Like how does this impact their ability to, say, participate in sports and their usual gait?
The more length that you try to achieve, it can impact or depreciate some of your high-level functioning, like your athletic ability. So what I generally tell patients is that you're getting the height, or you're trading it for something. It's not free, and that is potentially some depreciation in that athletic ability.
Long term, is there any data, because this is so new, in terms of, okay, does this increase load on a hip joint, which then may increase load on the spine for your patients?
Sure, and we have some data. We've looked at, for instance, the geometry around joints and looking to see if there's any changes in that. We actually don't see much changing around the joints themselves, around the hip, the knee. So we do have a lot of information and data, and see that there doesn't look to be any sort of long-term complications. And we have data from children, from trauma patients. So that data does exist. Now, though, with newer technology and newer surgical ability, we're allowing patients to look at this as an elective procedure to actually be taller.
How much would a case like this cost?
Right, so this wouldn't be covered by insurance from the cosmetic perspective. The general price starts at about $76,000, and half of that cost is really the implant, because the implants are extremely expensive.
So $76,000 at the starting cost in order to lengthen the bones in your thigh specifically to gain some type of inch in height as a man. Again, fellas, I'm not making no reservations on this. I'm just saying this in regards that this is like something very new to me, but I knew that when it comes to the expansion of medicine and expansion of understanding cosmetics, that is, in that field as a doctor, they're going to look for anything they can to help these people cure their insecurities about the things that they're going through. And I'm not going to say that the insecurities in particular are not is frivolous or anything like that. I will definitely say that they're just insecurities. It's something that you don't like about yourself, and that's pretty much okay. But I think by the way of the Most High, there is definitely always tools and instruments that you can achieve as a man. I never believed from day one, since I came on this earth, that there is nothing that a man or a woman can do to achieve the happiness that they want to receive. I never believed that there's a no way, a no holds barred way. If there's a will, there's a way. That's always been the golden principle for me growing up as a child into my manhood now. So my thing about it is they don't teach you about the simple applied things that you use. I'm definitely one that believes in herbs. I believe in using herbs as a way to achieve certain things and ailments in your body, because that's what they used in the olden days. So if they can use that in the olden days, what makes you think that you can't use it now? Just because the pharmaceutical companies is just telling you to top up on pills or just go ahead to the doctor to achieve all this surgery? The Most High has always made it a way for people to make do with whatever they want to make do with. But of course, certain things may take surgical procedures and may take you going to a doctor and seeing a doctor in order to achieve exactly what you want. But back to my case, I did mention the idea of HGH earlier, in which I do believe that you have to take that into consideration, especially if you're after the tender age of, let's say, 22 or 23, that there's definitely exercises you can use in order to gain some type of millimeter or gain an inch in height. Now, the inch is going to be more of a way to do it. And millimeters ain't shit. Millimeters will probably be something you have for a day when you just wake up, because usually when you wake up, you gain like an inch or two. I think you gain like a millimeter or something like that when you wake up out of bed every morning and stuff like that. And it definitely depends on how you sleep. But a lot of men have to understand exercising is key. So you do have to make sure you're stretching out your muscles, stretching out your bones, but more specifically, your muscles is very important. That's why yoga is a very much faction in this. And also I do recommend hopping on a stationary bike and hopping on a bike in general every day in order to stretch out your bones, that is, and make sure your seat is up if you're a short man in order to achieve this. But also herbs that, you know, they say that you can be taking is something like arginine and ashwagandha and all these different things out there that you can use in order to achieve or help out with this whole entire height deficiency. I mean, it's really much more ways that you could do it, but it's not going to just be like you grow an inch in a week, because that's not going to happen. It's not going to be one of those sort of things that's just going to happen over time. I mean, happen in a little short amount of time. It's going to take time for that. Just like anything that happens in life, it takes time. You have to be very patient. But that's not the point of this video. The point of this video is to go ahead and make this a video for men who feel some type of way about height. I think that a lot of this comes with the projection of being ridiculed for being short, and that also women do not take you seriously if you are a short man. Now, I've been in very much personal conversations with friends around me who even told me confidently, or told me specifically, that the women that they met don't even like dating tall men. To my surprise, they told me that. They was like, they don't like dating tall men. There's been examples. I've seen men who I know are quote unquote players, or be at the clubs, or they'll be at all these different events and they score women when they're about 5'2" to 5'3", and all these different things out there. So my whole entire reason for saying that is sometimes it's not about your height. Sometimes it's just about the confidence you exude. That's definitely something that's a very trite thing to say, but it's definitely very important to how your attitude is. And I don't want brothers to understand out here that, you know, it's the end all be all or end of the world because of who you are. You're put on this earth for a reason. The Most High put you here. Everybody can't always be tall. Everybody can't always be short. I mean, there's a reason for everything. But I think the most important thing is confidence. And with that being said, you know, otherwise than that, just take time to understand. Even if you are insecure, just understand there are ways to achieve what you want out of life. And that's mainly it. Peace.